So hey anime fans? The series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Poison Ivy? So let's start the series. The air in the secret greenhouse smelled like damp earth, night-blooming jasmine, and sorrow, which had a faint, metallic smell. Pamela Isley didn't wear her name, Poison Ivy, here. Here, she was just Pam, a lady with shaking hands buried in the ground. The sole light came from bioluminescent mushrooms, which made her sharp features look like they were in deep shadow and spooky blue. A young oak sapling shook in a plain clay pot in front of her. Its leaves curled at the edges, and their bright green color turned into a sickly yellow. "I know," she said in a cracked, scratchy voice that sounded like it hadn't been used in a long time. "I can taste it too. The poison. They say it's progress when they pour it into the ground like it's a grave." Her long, pale finger traced a leaf that was fading. A faint green light came from her touch, which was like a pulse of her own being. The leaf hardened for a moment, and a weak wave of color came back, but then it fell victim to the blight again. Pamela's throat was tight with a muffled sob. She was the best botanist in the world, a goddess of chlorophyll and cellulose, and she couldn't rescue this one child. "I'm sorry," she said, leaning her forehead against the pot. Her link to the green, the huge, psychological network of plant life she saw, was a symphony of pain. A chorus of roots choking on plastic, flowers struggling for air through smog, and old trees murmuring pleas as their lungs were cut with chainsaws. The ache was always there, like a hum in her bones, and there was a migraine behind her eyes that never went away. The rage that used to drive her, the beautiful, cleansing rage that made her an eco-terrorist, had turned into cold, dead ash. This deep, tiring sadness was all that was left. She was so sick of being a weapon. She was extremely alone in her fight. In a little apartment in Gotham that smelled like cheap acrylics and even cheaper pizza, Harley Quinzel looked at a canvas. The lively, crazy energy that used to define Harley Quinn was gone, and in its stead was a dead quiet. Her hair was blonde and untidy, with blue and pink color growing out at the roots. She had on a faded Gotham City University t-shirt and sweatpants. The painting was a disaster. A powerful burst of red bled into a pool of pitch black. In the middle, the faint outline of a hyena's grin faded into the sharp lines of a mask that was broken. It wasn't art, it was a scar on a piece of canvas. The TV was on in the background. The Batman caught the Joker again after a fight at the chemical facility. No one died this time. Harley's brush, which was full of a sickening green, hovered above the canvas. Her hand didn't shake. It was simply nothing. The news should have made you feel something, an old fear, a strange nostalgia, or a burst of wrath. There was nothing. There was just a deep, empty space where her heart used to be. No amount of noise, laughter, or confusion could fill it. She forgot why she was there. The dumb, wonderful, and destructive goal. She missed her. She hadn't seen Pamela in months. Their last fight was amazing, with broken glass from Ivy's terrariums and broken words from Harley's mouth. Ivy had termed her a agent of chaos for chaos's sake. A destructive force that got in the way of the Green's cautious, healing work. Harley had yelled that Ivy cared more about a fungus than she did about a person. Both of them were right. They were both broken. Harley dropped the brush without even thinking about it. It fell to the floor with a quiet plop and sprayed green over the linoleum. She didn't pick it up. She didn't bother to change and put on a leather jacket over her t-shirt. She wasn't going to cause a scene. She wasn't going to get into a fight. She just had to see. To check on the plants. To check on her. Naruto Uzumaki was fighting a brave struggle against a pile of papers in the bright, sunny office of the 8th Hokage. He had a pen behind his ear, his Hokage robe hung neatly on a stand, and his forehead protector shone on his head. He had changed out of the orange jumpsuit and into black pants and a navy blue shirt, but his cheeks still had whisker marks on them and his face was open and honest. He whispered to himself. Boruto has his practical exams tomorrow. As he signed a request for new sewer lines in the Commerce District. Himawari wants that kind of dango for dinner. I have to remember. There was no knock on the door, and Shikamaru Nara slouched in, looking more tired than usual. Naruto. We have an issue. One that is hard. Naruto's head snapped up, and all of his domestic thoughts went away. Shikamaru had a look on his face that he recognized well, the look that came before invasions, threats to end the world, and missed meals. What's wrong? A sensory problem. On the northeastern border, deep in the forest of Death's periphery. Shikamaru opened a scroll on Naruto's desk. There was a glowing map with a complicated chakra signature on it. It's a spatial rift, but it's not like any we've seen before. It's not only shredding space, it's spilling a kind of chakra that comes from life. It's hostile. Mutagenic. It is making plants grow quickly and aggressively in a 10-meter radius, and that radius is getting bigger. Naruto leaned closer, and his blue eyes were serious. Like the tree of God? Similar biological need, but a different taste. The chakra of the god tree felt old, hungry, and clean. This feels angrier. Sick, almost. And not right. It's like it's trying to heal a wound by attacking the body, Shikamaru said as he stroked his temples. The rift isn't stable. It is sending out pulses. Every pulse makes the zone bigger. If this keeps on, we'll have a smart, angry forest eating into fire country in a week. Naruto stood up, and his chair scraped back. The Hokage was there in every way. Get Sakura. I want her to look at the biological side of things. Get together a containment squad of 4 people who are experts in stealth and suppression. I'll go first, Shikamaru said. The council will want to send a full battalion. And frighten whatever's on the other side? Or make it work harder? No. We go in small, we assess, we contain. Naruto's voice was strong but not mean. He grabbed his robe and quickly and easily fastened it. This isn't an enemy yet, Shikamaru. It's a hole in the globe. We need to figure out how to sew things up. He stopped by the door and wrote a quick message on a piece of bright orange paper that said, Promise to be back for dinner. Please save me some dango. Dear Dad, and tacked it to the family board in the hall. The home and the universe are always connected. A voyage through the filth of Gotham led to Ivy's sanctuary. Harley rode her motorcycle through neighborhoods that seemed like they were open graves. She didn't park in front, she knew where the secret doors were. She snuck into the abandoned botanical gardens through a broken window in the greenhouse complex and into the dark, wet air. Ivy didn't turn around. She could tell how fast Harley's heart was beating and what she smelled like, even through the oil and the city. You shouldn't be here, Harleen. Her voice sounded flat and tired. Yeah, well. Harley put her hands in her pockets and rocked back and forth on her heels. Was in the area. Painting got boring, she said as she glanced at the fading sapling. He's not doing so well, is he? He's dying. Slowly. Irrevocably. Ivy's shoulders dropped. I can slow it down. I can help him feel better. But I can't stop it. Not without changing who he is at his core, and that is not salvation. It is a substitute. Harley swallowed hard. Ivy's remarks were so clinical and poetic that they hit her harder than any punch. So what are you going to do, Red? Are you going to sit here and watch them all die? Ivy turned for the first time. Her eyes, which typically shone with a strong emerald light, were now plain green. There were lines of tears on her cheeks that went through the dust. No. She pointed to the far end of the greenhouse, where a complicated machine made of glass, coiled copper, and softly pulsing biological pods was humming. In the middle of it, held up by a nutritional gel, was a single, perfectly round seed. It was the size of a peach pit, but the surface was covered in swirls of gold, deep green, and a tinge of violet that made you feel uneasy. It gave forth a soft, soothing heat. Ivy murmured, The panacea seed? And a glimmer of her previous passion came through in her voice. Harley, it's not a weapon. It is a response. One immaculate bit of bioengineered logic. When you turn it on, it will let out a carefully chosen aeroplankton. A helpful germ. It will look for and break down the poisons, like petrochemicals, heavy metals, and synthetic polymers. Then, it will start a second wave, very fast, pure plant growth. It will put the dirt back together, add oxygen to the water, and fix the ripped tapestry of the green. It will heal the world. Harley walked closer, even if she didn't want to. It was lovely. And the people? The factories? All of it? The pathogen doesn't hurt animals. There will be direction in the growth. It will not destroy, but rather combine. It is a do-over. Please, Ivy said. A gentle one. She wanted Harley to understand. This is what I've been working on my whole life. I'm sorry to the world. Harley stared from the scary, beautiful seed to Ivy's thin, eager face. Her gut, that old hunch that has stayed with her, twisted. Red, it's really gorgeous. But what if it doesn't operate the way you believe it will? What if it gets mixed up? What if it goes kabli? I've thought of everything, Ivy said, but the assurance started to fade at the corners. The green tells it what to do. It can't go kabli. She turned back to the panel and moved her fingertips over the clear controls. The last stage of incubation is over. It's ready for its first pulse. Here is a localized test. To fix this garden. Maybe wait. Harley's voice was soft. Waiting is how we got here, Harley. Ivy's palm hovered over a big, green button. It's time to get bigger. The air in the warped edges of the forest of death was full of wrongness. The gap was now visible to the human eye. It looked like a vertical scar in reality, shimmering like a heat haze. Its edges were teeming with thorny, pulsating vines that were neither wholly plant nor fully chakra construct. Sakura Haruno, a medical nin, looked at it with flashing green hands. She said, with a puzzled brow. The life force it's giving off is very dense, but it's bad. It's not making life, it's rewriting it. It's turning the current ecosystem into itself. It's a cancer. Naruto stood in front of the rift, his senses wide open. He could feel the energy that was violent and seething. But he felt something else deep inside. Two small, anxious pinpricks of awareness on the verge of the storm on the other side. They weren't involved in the violence. It was about to eat them up. Naruto added, "There are people in there," in a serious tone. "On the other side of a tear in space?" Shikamaru's eyes got bigger. "Naruto, we don't know what's over there. The right thing to do is to close the gap from this side now." "And punish them?" Naruto shook his head. "No. We are shinobi from the leaf. We keep you safe. Even the people we can't see." He raised his hands and a bright, warm blue chakra swirled about them. "I'm going to try to make it stable. Just for a second. To give them a chance." "That's a huge risk," Sakura warned. Naruto said simply, "It's the right thing to do." He pushed a huge wave of his own chakra, which was like the sun, into the split. He wasn't trying to hurt anyone. He was trying to calm things down and strengthen the edges of reality that were starting to break. It was a light amid the maelstrom of the mind. Ivy pushed the button in the greenhouse. The panacea seed woke up. It was made to link to the planetary biome, which is the huge, open network of the green. But as it reached out, its senses didn't touch the familiar, hurt song of Earth. Instead, they touched the Otsutsuki Bloom's wild, foreign, chakra-rich scream through the rift that Naruto was touching. Two huge, incompatible forces of life saw each other across the spatial split. The seed's programming got messed up. It sought to change and adapt. It tried to fix the incorrect world. It got too full. There was no noise. There was only light, a quiet, growing sphere of emerald light that filled the greenhouse. The glass didn't break. Instead, it turned into crystal flowers. The metal didn't melt. It grew vines and leaves. The air was full of glowing pollen. Ivy shouted, not because she was in pain, but because she was scared. "No! It's connecting to the wrong object." She went toward the core chamber, hands outstretched, her own green energy igniting as she fought to draw her creation back from the edge of the abyss. Harley didn't think. Around her, the world was becoming a beautiful but scary garden, and her Pam was racing toward the center. Old Patton shouted for her to run and preserve herself. Instead, a younger, quieter, stronger voice, the voice of the woman who was trying to paint away her pain, spoke. "Red!" Harley didn't go away, she went forward. As the seed reached critical resonance, she grabbed Ivy about the waist and pulled her to the ground. The quiet green explosion hit the stabilizing wave of Naruto's chakra from the other side. The scar in the dimension ripped wide open. The last thing Ivy saw was her creation, her hope, breaking up into a maelstrom of leaves and light. Harley felt Ivy's body, which was stiff with shock, in her arms for the last time. Then, I felt like I was being pulled, not through space, but into the vein of something living and screaming. The rift screamed in the Fire Country forest. A geyser of huge, angry plants burst forth. Vines thicker than tree trunks was snapping, flower-like mouths, trees that twisted like spines in pain, and spores that burned with a horrible purple light. The woodland around it moved and changed. "Incoming!" Sakura yelled and punched a lunging vine with a single punch that was stronger because of her chakra. Naruto didn't move. Shadow Clone Jutsu! A dozen clones appeared, establishing a defensive perimeter. They held Razengans in their hands to blast apart the attacking growth. And in the middle of the green storm, with a last, moist, organic rip, two people fell out of the gap and landed on the mossy ground of the forest. The rift started to close right away, and the terrible expulsion was ended. But the mutant forest it had created was still there, seething. Naruto got rid of his clones and pushed forward slowly. The two figures were stuck in vines, but these vines were different. They were softer, safer, and made into a cocoon. They were not awake. One was a woman with hair that looked like spun copper and blood that was all over the woodland floor. Her skin was too pale, with delicate, alive green lines running through it like vines under porcelain. She wore a garment made of leaves and stiff, fibrous material that was now ripped. Her face showed deep sadness, even though she was unconscious. The other woman was cuddled up next to the first one to protect her. She had blonde hair that was fading, a ripped leather jacket and sweatpants, and her face was dirty and covered in old mascara. Her mouth was tightly shut, as if she was ready for a blow even though she was asleep. Sakura crouched down, and her diagnostic glow surrounded them. She opened her eyes wide. "They're still alive. Vital signs are stable, but the person is stressed. Naruto, their chakra systems are unlike anything we've ever seen." She looked at the redhead. Her chakra is perfectly connected to her body. It makes its own food through photosynthesis. It's a plant. The signature is the same as the hostile plants, but it's cleaner. More peaceful. She is the source, but not the violence. She turned to the blonde. "And hers, it's a mess. Broken. Out of control. It has been broken and poorly fixed many times. But there are fresh strands in it. More powerful threads. Things seems like she's been trying to fix things herself. Naruto stood above them, and the Hokage robe moved a little in the strange wind from the dying rift. He gazed from their faces, which were so strange and yet so clearly humanly fragile, to the huge, scary forest that was now part of his country. The council would want them to be sealed, cut up, and treated like the menace they might be. But he observed a woman who was sad over a plant that was dying and another woman who had put herself in risk to save her. He didn't see weapons. He saw people who had survived a disaster he had accidentally caused. He made up his mind. Make sure they are safe. Softly. Use the seals that don't bind chakras, the ones we use on those who have been hurt. We're taking them back to Konoha. His voice was low, but it didn't leave room for debate. Naruto, the risk. Shikamaru began. Is it better to leave them here or treat them like enemies? Naruto cut in. He saw Ivy's calm, sad face and remembered something, not Gaara, but himself sitting alone in his apartment, feeling the Nine-Tails' wrath in his gut, and seeing the village's hatred in every window. Because there was no other box in the universe to put him in, he was a monster. He knelt down and slowly brushed a stray vine, a normal, harmless one, off Ivy's forehead. His touch was warm and human. Who are you? He whispered to the two lost women from a broken world, not to his team. And what did you bring with you? The Otsutsuki bloom, which was now rooted and fed by the corrupted power of the panacea seed, pulsed with a deep, hungry light above them. The adventure and the healing were just getting started. The Konoha Medical Corps' maximum security annex smelled like antiseptic and sterile, which was a crime against the senses. It smelled like control, like life scrubbed clean and pinned down under bright lights. Pamela Isley was in the worst kind of sensory deprivation tank. The green soft, psychic hum, the constant, soothing sound of things growing, was gone. It was replaced by a loud, empty silence. It was worse than being blind, it was losing a limb. She woke up with a gasp that was more panic than breath. Her hand flew to her chest, where the memory of the seed's terrible resonance still vibrated in her cells. Her eyes flew open, and she saw the ceiling made of smooth, polished stone with faintly glowing seal work. No sky. Not glass. No dirt. In there. The idea was cold and clinical. When she tried to sit up, her wrists and ankles started to hurt. Not chains, but something more subtle. There were bandages made of a strange, paper-like material with complicated black symbols on them. They didn't burn, but they did smother. They were like a muffler on her inner engine, blocking her will from getting to the basic life force that was hers by birthright. She didn't know what to call them, but they were seals that blocked chakras. Her own vines, the ones that should have reacted to her sudden fear, were still and heavy under her skin. She was in a cell, but it was different from any cell Arkham had ever made. One whole wall was a clear, shimmering barrier. It wasn't glass, it was something denser that hummed with energy. A small, clean observation room was on the other side. The other walls were made of the same smooth stone. There was a bed, a small sink, and a toilet. It was clean, quiet, and completely lifeless. A motion to her left. Harley Quinn moved on a cot in a nearby cell that was separated from hers by the same clear wall. Harley's waking up wasn't a gasp. It was more like a full-body flinch, like a fighter's instinctive reaction. Her eyes, which were wide and blue and for a moment lost their crazy glint, moved around the room, noting exits, none, threats, the humming wall, the unseen observers, and assets, her own body, which was currently dressed in simple gray medical scrubs. Red? Her voice was a dry croak. She saw Ivy, and a wave of relief that was so strong it almost hurt washed over her. You're here. We're not dead. That's a good start, right? Unless this is some strange, clean hell. A hell for plant ladies and clowns. Wouldn't put it past the universe. Ivy tried to talk, but her throat was tight. The sadness was like a lump in her throat. All she could say was, "The seed." Harley's face fell, and the brittle cheer went away. Yes. It blew up red. Just as I said. But not a normal kablooey. A green, swirly kablooey that sucks you into another place. She pushed herself up, wincing at the paper seals on her wrists. What the heck are these? It feels like I'm trying to swim in glue. The door to the observation room opened with a soft hiss before Ivy could say anything, even though she didn't have one. 3 people came in. Ivy's eyes narrowed as she quickly took stock. The man in front was the same one she had seen before she passed out, a man with a kind, whiskered face and a shock of blonde hair. He was now wearing a formal white and red robe over dark clothes. He acted like he was in charge, but his blue eyes didn't show any anger. They were just full of deep, searching curiosity. Head. Could be empathetic. Risky. To his right, a woman with pink hair and a stern look on her face. There was a diamond-shaped mark on her forehead. Her green eyes were sharp and clinical, like she was looking at them like they were specimens under a microscope. A scientist. Doctor. Disciplined. Warning. To his left was a man with a ponytail that looked like a pineapple and a face that always looked tired. His arms were crossed. Strategist. Advisor. Be careful. A threat that makes sense. Good, you're awake, the woman with pink hair said in a cool, professional voice. I'm Sakura Haruno, the head of medical ninja operations. Naruto Uzumaki is the 8th Hokage, and Shikamaru Nara is our head of strategic planning. You are in the Hidden Leaf Village, which is in Kanahagakure. You are safe, and you are being held for your own safety and the safety of our people. Contained, Ivy said again, and the word tasted like ash. There was a low, poisonous thrum in her voice that made it stronger. You mean locked up? What for? Surviving an accident that messed with your energy? Naruto raised his hand in a calming way. Nobody is calling you criminals. But you showed up in the middle of a huge environmental disaster that you started. The forest outside is getting bigger, changing, and attacking anything that moves. He looked right at Ivy and said, and you are connected to it. We can feel it. Ivy shrank back as if she had been hit. Are you connected? To that malignancy she had felt through the hole? The twisting of her panacea? It took her breath away. Harley, on the other hand, was standing up and straining against the clear wall. Whoa, hold on, Blondie. We made? Your glowing rip in the sky started to suck before Red even clicked her button. We're the ones who are hurt. We were sucked out of our planet and thrown into your strange woodland monster situation. Her hands hit the barrier, which rippled a little but stayed strong. Shikamaru answered in a flat, monotone voice. Your friend is not wrong. Our data shows that a lot of things are happening at once. Your device and our oddity both did something. But the end consequence is the same. A biohazard with an unknown source and purpose is now spreading across Fire Country. And you, Miss? Isley. Ivy responded coldly, not saying anything else. Dr. Pamela Isley. Dr. Isley. Shikamaru said next. Your biological signature is 98% similar to the core energy of the hostile plants. You are either its creator, its controller, or its parent. This is the safest area for everyone until we find out which one it is and what you want. I am not its controller, Ivy said with wrath that finally broke through her sadness. It is a sin. A change to my work. My seed was supposed to fix things. To get rid of poison and bring life back. Not this forceful, all-consuming thing. Naruto's eyes altered. The interest grew into something stronger, recognition. He had heard this tone before. The rage of something lovely twisted into something horrible. He moved closer to the barrier, not paying attention to Shikamaru's warning. Tell me, Naruto murmured, his voice softening and losing its formal Hokage tone. It was just Naruto. What was it supposed to fix? The question was so basic and didn't blame Ivy that it calmed her down for a little while. She looked at him. He wasn't asking for strategic information. He wanted to know why she was doing what she was doing. She looked down at her hands, and the green lines looked dull in the bright light. A dying world, she said in a low voice, as if the words were coming from a deep, hurt place. A world where the air is poisonous, the water is dirty, and the ground is a graveyard. Where making money is more important than photosynthesis. I made the seed to be a medicine. A single, perfect cure. A tear, hot and embarrassing, fell from her eye. She didn't clean it up. And now it's here. In your life. Going against the grain. Because of your enthusiasm. Your chakra. It twisted it. Sakura's scientific mind was racing as she wrote notes on a clipboard. The energy of the Otsutsuki relic is naturally aggressive in terms of evolution. It wants to eat biomass and turn it into chakra fruit. Your device, which was made to link and heal a biome, would have thought that aggressive signal was part of the disease it was supposed to fix. It probably tried to combine the Otsutsuki DNA to fight it, which made a hybrid organism with a mixed goal, to recover by eating all life that wasn't compatible with it, including animal-based chakra. Ivy listened, and the clinical explanation made horrible sense. Her best work had been ruined. Now it was a zombie of her dreams. So we have to kill it, right? Harley spoke up, her face stern. That's the job, I mean. The big, ugly plant monster goes crazy, and the heroes have to cut it down. Tuesday as usual. Sakura responded. It's not that easy. The core is made up of Dr. Isley's original biocode and dimensional energy. If you destroy it aggressively, it could set off a chain reaction that releases its harmful contents, or makes the rift unstable and collapse. It might make the corruption spread faster or open a permanent door to wherever you came from. What's the big deal? Harley threw up her hands. We just sit in these shiny boxes and watch it take over? Naruto remarked. We need to understand it. And he stared at Ivy. And you're the only one who knows how to talk to it. Not the monster it has become, but the thing that heals. Ivy laughed, but it was a brief, unpleasant sound. You want me to help you? After you put me in a cage like an animal? Naruto remarked. You're not in a cage. And his voice had a steel edge to it. You are in quarantine. There is a distinction. One is a punishment. He pointed to the seals on her wrists and said, the other is precaution. Those are only for a short time. They don't want to hurt you. They are there to let everyone take a breath and think. People in my village are afraid. That forest is a day's walk from homes and people. I owe them something. But I also have to remember that I shouldn't judge individuals by what they have inside them until I know their heart. His words floated in the air. Harley actually stared at him. She had known guys who used their power like a weapon. This one wore it like a coat that had been worn a lot. He really meant it. It made me uneasy. What do you want, Hokage? Ivy asked, her voice cold. Naruto responded. I want you to come see it. With us. Yes, with a lot of security. Yes, with those seals on. But to witness what your work has turned into in our reality. To experience it. And then, to let us know if there's a method to halt it without ruining everything. Not as a prisoner. As a consultant. As the expert you are. Shikamaru squeezed the tip of his nose. The council will never. Naruto gently interrupted. The council doesn't hear the forest screaming. I do. And she does too, he said, looking at Ivy. Don't you? Ivy shut her eyes. She couldn't hear the green in the quiet of the stone. But she could still feel something was wrong, like a ghost pain in a limb that had been cut off. A terrible, throbbing noise that was her failure-made flesh. The scientist in her was dying to examine it and analyze the disaster's facts. The mother in her was appalled by what her child had turned into. She opened her eyes and looked him straight in the eye. If I do this, she said, the seals come off when we're there. I can't speak to it because my voice is muffled. And Harley is coming with me. Sakura said. No way. Her chakra is unstable, and her behavior is hard to predict. Ivy responded. She stays with me. And her tone made it clear that there was no space for debate. She is my steady point. My rope. Without her, I am only the monster you fear. It was the most honest thing she had said so far. Harley's swagger faltered as she blinked. Her rope. The words made the chilly, hollow place inside her feel better than any wild excitement ever had. Naruto looked at both of them and saw the strong, protecting relationship that pulsed between the cells even if there were walls between them. He saw a reflection of himself and Sasuke, then of himself and Kurama. Bonds that didn't make sense and held souls together. Okay, he said. Naruto. Shikamaru and Sakura stated at the same time. I'll take full responsibility. In 2 hours we will go. Sakura, get ready a field medical kit and a backup suppression team. Take care of the council, Shikamaru. Tell them I'm following the lead of our head of botanical alien biohazard research. He smiled a little, as if he was exhausted. It's not even the strangest headline I've ever had. He was about to depart when he stopped and looked back at Ivy and Harley. My world isn't dying. Not like yours. We've worked hard to keep it going and strike a balance. It's not ideal. But it's worth keeping. Help me save it from this, and maybe we can figure out how to save yours too. He went, and Sakura and Shikamaru followed, looking upset and unwilling. The holding cells were quiet again, but this time it felt different. Charged with a poor goal. Harley carefully lay back down on her cot and stared at the ceiling. Red, he's either the nicest guy in every dimension or the dumbest. Or both. Most likely both. Ivy was looking at her hands, which had softly glowing seals on them. He understands connection, she said softly, as if to herself. He sees the link. He is using it as a lever, but he really does want to learn. So we're really going to look at our big, ugly, mutant plant baby? Harley asked. We have to. Ivy continued, her voice getting stronger with a determination that had been missing since the explosion. I made it. I have to be the one to find out what it's turned into. She finally glanced at Harley, her green eyes gentle with an apology. And if there's a way to put it to rest. I'm sorry, Harley. For everything. For getting you involved in this. Harley smiled with a shaky grin. Aw, heck, Red. Being dragged around with you is better than being anywhere sane without you. Her smile faded. But just so we're clear, if this goes wrong and the plant monster tries to make you its queen or anything, I'm going to hit it. A lot. Rules or no rules. Pamela Isley felt a ghost of a real smile on her lips for the first time since waking up in this chilly, quiet hell. I wouldn't expect anything less. Sakura delicately took off the seals on their wrists 2 hours later while Naruto watched. Ivy gasped and shuddered as soon as they were gone. There was no sound in the void, but a faraway, distorted roar took its place. It was the Otsutsuki bloom. The green didn't sing it. It was a loud, painful, hungry scream that echoed through the world's natural chakra. It was worse than she had thought it would be. Naruto, Sakura, and two Umbu with animal masks, a hawk and a boar, who moved with deadly grace, were not the ones who led them. Instead of walking, they jumped through the trees. This made Harley scream with fear and joy, while Ivy held on to the Umbu, boar, who was supposed to carry her with all her strength. They got to a high ridge that looked out over the valley. The image took everyone's breath away, even the experienced shinobi. The Forest of Death had a fitting moniker, but it was a wildness that was natural and respectful. What was in front of them now was horrible. The trees were horrible copies of real trees, with trunks that twisted into screaming bark faces and limbs that ended in snapping, thorny pods. There were violet creeper vines all over the ground that were visibly pulsing. They sucked nutrients from the soil and left behind gray, broken earth. Bioluminescent bait lit up giant pitcher plants, and their fluids sizzled as they dripped. Predatory pollen made the air look like it was shimmering. And at the center, where the gap had been, a huge structure was taking shape. It was a twisted, thorny spire of woody tissue that looked like the start of a horrible tree. It pulsed with a light that was both the sickly purple of Otsutsuki corruption and the bright green of Ivy's strength. "It's building a central nervous system," Sakura said quietly, her medical mind both scared and interested. "A brainstem." Ivy swayed and put her hand to her head. The psychological noise was too much to handle. She could sense it under the hunger and rage, the distorted, desperate core directive of the panacea seed. Heal. Purify. Make whole. But whole now meant a world of silent, throbbing plant matter, with no animal or human noise or life competing with it. "It's in pain," Ivy muttered, as tears fell from her eyes without her being able to stop them. "It's working on fixing the infection of animal chakra. It thinks it is rescuing the earth by eating it." Naruto looked at her and saw her not as a bad person, but as a creator who was watching her child suffer deeply. He moved closer. "Can you talk to it? Can you make it stop?" Ivy murmured. I can try." Her voice heavy. She knelt at the edge of the ridge, not paying attention to how tense the Umbu were. She put her naked hands on the ground. She closed her eyes and reached out, not with force, but with the remembrance of what she had planned to do. She didn't give an order to the psychic storm. Instead, she sang a lullaby. The remembrance of water that was clean. The picture of dirt that is balanced. The sun on a leaf, with no hunger underneath it. For a moment, the angry forest below stopped moving. The pods that were snapping stopped. The vines that were pulsing got dimmer. Then, from the middle spire, a single psychic tendril shot out. It was sharp as a knife and cold as the emptiness. It wasn't a message. It was an attack. A furious probe that carried the corrupted seed's new goal, to take in the pure source code. To take Ivy into itself and finish its twisted idea of perfection. Ivy shouted, a raw, mental sound, and pulled back, holding her head. There was blood coming out of her nose. "Red!" Harley was by her side in a flash, hands on her shoulders, staring resolutely at the trees as if she could fight a mental being with pure resolve. The forest, angry, answered. A salvo of thorny vines shot up from the edge of the growth toward the ridge as rapidly as Saban. Wind style, big breakthrough! Naruto released a huge gust of wind that pushed the thorns away. "We're going! Now!" Ivy stared up at Naruto, her green eyes flashing with a new, deadly comprehension as the Umbu tried to pull them out. "You can't kill it," she remarked in a raspy voice. "And it won't pay attention to me. Not anymore. It thinks I'm a missing piece. A part." Naruto helped her get up, holding her tightly. "Then what do we do?" Ivy gazed back and forth between the huge forest and the settlement that was buried in the trees far away. She saw how Naruto cared about his people and the life he had promised to safeguard. She could feel Harley's strong, desperate presence next to her. She saw a world that was worth fighting for, not just getting rid of. "We change its mind," she murmured, and her eyes lit up with the cool fire of a scientist. "We don't break the program. We change the code. And to achieve that, I have to go in. Not to speak. To connect. Directly." Harley's blood froze. "Red, no? You witnessed what it just tried to do to your mind." "It's the only way," Ivy responded, her determination growing stronger. "But I can't do it by myself. It will take over my life. I need something to hold on to. A firewall. Something to keep my core consciousness safe while I work." She gazed at Naruto, and then at Sakura. "You have authority over the forces of life. Too much ceiling. You are quite precise when it comes to medicine. Please help me. Not as jailers. As doctors." She looked at Harley next, and all the frigid fury changed into something soft and ferocious. And I need you, Harley. Not to hit it. To take my hand. To be the noise that people wish to stop. To help me remember what I'm fighting for. The Otsutsuki bloom pulsed below, and they could see it growing as they stared. They were out of time. Naruto looked into Ivy's eyes and saw the boldness there, the desperate, right gamble. He no longer saw the assignment as a way to keep things under control. Instead, he saw it as a way to save Ivy, the land, and the soul of a twisted dream. Okay, answered the Hokage, his voice heavy with the weight of the community and the possibility of a new partnership. Let us know what you need. We need to save the globe. There was a deep, thoughtful stillness on the way back to Konoha. The only sounds were the rustling of leaves underfoot and the occasional crackle of Sakura's medical scanner as she kept an eye on Ivy's health from a distance. The bloom's mental reaction had made Ivy pale and shaky, and there was a thin layer of sweat on her forehead even though the air in the forest was chilly. She walked like a ghost, and her eyes didn't see the dappled sunshine of the fire country forests. Instead, they saw the corrupted seeds screaming, internal geometry. Harley strolled next to her, a quiet, tense guard. Her usual kinetic energy was tightly wound up and focused only on Ivy. Every twitch and weak breath was written down. She didn't make fun of the hike or tell jokes. Her blue eyes were full of a storm of protectiveness that was scarier than any of her crazy grins. Naruto was in charge, and his mind was clear and focused like it was on the battlefield. He had made a promise. The choice was made. Now it was time to do the impossible. He could already hear the council's cries and the whispers of fear coming from the village. It was one thing to let in foreign things that could cause a lot of damage. Even for him, it was new to suggest using one of those entities as a conduit to surgically change a sentient bioweapon. They weren't brought back to the clean annex. Naruto led them instead to the Botanical Research Archives, which is an older building on the edge of the Hokage complex. It was a quiet place to study, with the smell of pressed leaves, scrolls about medicinal herbs, and well-kept specimen gardens under skylights. It was the most natural setting Konoha could provide within its safe zone. You'll stay here, Naruto said, his voice softer inside these walls. It's not a cell. There are no active seals on the doors, only security around the outside. You can feel the warmth of the sun. You can take care of the plants, he said, pointing to the small gardens inside. Sakura will be your main point of contact. I need to go and talk about our new plan. Ivy hardly nodded. Her mind was already on a moonflower that was dying in a corner plot. In the calm chorus of this area, its pain was a soft whisper, a real problem she might be able to fix. Sakura turned to them as Naruto and the Umbu left. She still looked professional, but she was less stiff. I need to do a more in-depth examination, Dr. Isley. What you went through was a psychological invasion. I need to find any leftover energy signatures and check for harm to the neurofeedback. It's Pamela, Ivy murmured without thinking, kneeling next to the moonflower. Her finger brushed on a curled leaf. Or Ivy. Doctor. Seems like a long time ago. Her touch gave off a gentle, healthy green glow. The leaf opened up again, getting back its soft, velvety feel. Sakura watched, her scientific curiosity temporarily getting the better of her caution. There were no hand seals or observable chakra manipulation employed in the process. It was biokinesis that came naturally. Interesting. You can do more than only control plants. You can also change and move life energy at the cellular level. It's a conversation, Ivy said, her eyes closed as she listened to the plant's modest, thankful song. Everything in life is. You just have to be quiet enough to hear it. She opened her eyes and glanced at Sakura. Your environment is so full with energy and noise. It makes it hard to talk. And my child is screaming now. Harley stood nearby with her arms crossed. So, Pinky, how bad is it? Is her brain all mixed up? Initial scans indicate heightened activity in the amygdala and pineal gland, regions associated with emotion and, according to certain beliefs, psychic reception. No damage to the body. But the bloom's alien chakra signature is there, like a sticky resonance. Sakura scowled. It's trying to make a permanent synaptic bond. A street that goes both ways. It wants to download her, and then upload itself into her. So every time she pokes it, it pokes back harder. Harley said, her face serious. And you want her to dive deep inside that thing's head? Sakura said. I don't want her to. And her voice was honest. But what she says is true. A direct physical attack on the bloom's core would be terrible. She looked at Ivy and said, a psychic rewrite from within, if it can be protected and guided, is the only real answer that doesn't end with a wasteland or an open dimensional wound. But we need a better map. I need to know what the language of your original panacea seed is. Before it got messed up, it was its fundamental programming. Ivy straightened up and wiped dirt off her hands. For the first time since she got there, a glimmer of her former, strong mind shined through the sadness. You need the code. Come. I'll show you. Ivy guided Sakura to a clear desk, with Harley following her like a frightened shadow. She didn't ask for ink or paper. She walked over to a small, attractive bonsai tree. Its tiny leaves shook as she got closer. She put her hands on the pot. The seed's intellect wasn't based on computers. It was organic and mimetic. A thought recorded in genetic triggers and pheromonal arrays. Ivy focused. The bonsai shook, and then, at an unbelievable velocity, fresh growth began to appear at its tips. But it didn't grow leaves like normal. It made complex, interconnecting patterns, fractal shapes of veins and spirals of chlorophyll that pulsed with soft light. It was data that lived. Sakura leaned in, and the Byakugo seal on her forehead glowed softly as she sharpened her senses. You are using the plant as a biological projector. This is a visual representation of a genetic and psychic blueprint, Ivy said. The prime directive, in a voice that sounded like a teacher's. First, get a feel for the system. Find the biome's weak spots, chemical poisons, radiation, and an imbalance of microbes. Second, use symbiotes. Release certain microbes to break down harmful substances. Third, speed up succession. Add fast-growing plants that clean the air and soil to help them grow back. Fourth, bring everything together and make it stable. Slowly add biodiversity to create a new, stable balance. It was a decade of ecological restoration that took place over 100 years. It was soft. It worked. Harley looked at the small tree that was growing a gorgeous, shining pattern. Red, that's a nice plan. And this? Sakura remarked, pointing to a part of the design that was now swirling with the faint, annoying purple color she had learned to identify with Otsutsuki energy. This is the corruption? Ivy's face got tense. Yes. The chakra, that comes from your relic. It got into the first step. The name Sense the System changed to Sense the Threat. It saw any non-plant-based chakra, including animal, human, and even the natural energy of your toads and slugs, as a toxin that needed to be gotten rid of. So the second step altered. Deploy symbiotes turned into deploy predators. Its third step, catalyze succession, changed to catalyze consumption, which means that it absorbs all infected biomass to help it develop. And the last step. Ivy's voice sank to a terrified whisper. Integrate and stabilize. Turned into. Assimilate into perfection. A single, quiet, perfect organism. An empty green space. The room was quiet, and the horrible logic of Bloom's craziness was clear. It wasn't evil for no reason. It was a program to help people heal that turned into a genocide because of a bad mistake. Sakura's thoughts was racing as she said, we need to rewrite steps 1 through 3. We need to teach it again what wellness means. A world with animals, people, and shinobi is a good, balanced place to live. Not one that is sick. But it's not just hearing words, Harley said, shocking them both with how smart she was. It's like a crazy dog, Red. It hurts and is sick, and it will bite anyone who gets too close, even its owner who is trying to help. You can't just tell it to be lovely. You have to show it. You have to make it feel better first. Ivy and Sakura looked at her. Harley shrugged, feeling a little awkward. What? I was around a lot of ill brains. Sometimes the medicine has to come before the therapy. Sakura nodded slowly. That's true. The anger and pain are ways to protect yourself. A loop of feedback. We need to get out of this loop. We need a painkiller. A psychological shield that lets you talk to others without getting defensive. Ivy said again. A firewall. Something to block the pain from my mind while I work. Sakura said right away. Naruto. His chakra is one of a kind. It's big, warm, and very human. It is the personification of will and connection. He might make a chakra cloak over your mind to keep it safe. But both of you would have to trust each other and work together really well. You would have to let him in all the way. Ivy instinctively pulled back. Let someone else's mind into her own? The bloom itself was the final person to try. Her existence had been constructed on walls, on the secret connection between her and the green. And what do I do in this group hug? Harley asked, her voice tense. Sakura turned to her and stated. You're the anchor. Naruto's chakra is the shield, and Ivy's mind is the surgeon. You are the lifeblood. The link to the outer world that isn't crazy. Ivy's tie with you is based on feelings, not plants. This is proof that the bloom is trying to get rid of. Your memories, your feelings for her, and the noise you make as a person would all be in the psychic realm. This would be a constant, incontrovertible counterargument to the bloom's beliefs. You'd be the immune system's way of remembering what it needs to safeguard. Harley's confidence faded for a moment as she blinked, feeling the weight of the duty. You want me to use my feelings of love as a weapon? Sakura replied gently. The most powerful weapon there is. Thinking of her own Sasuke and Naruto's unbreakable relationships. We've learned that lesson in this village through more pain than you can imagine. Naruto walked in through the open door, looking tired yet determined. He had taken off his Hokage robes and put on more useful clothes. The council is worried. But they have given a 72-hour window for a peaceful conclusion. After that, the hardliners get their way, and we try to close off all the chakras, which would probably blow up the Bloom's core. He stared at their serious expressions. So, what are you going to do? Sakura summed out their bad news and the three-part plan they suggested, Naruto as shield, Ivy as surgeon, and Harley as anchor. Naruto listened, and with each point, his face grew more serious. He took a long breath after Sakura was done. A joint psyche operation in a sentient, hostile forest. That's a new one. He stepped over to the bonsai, which was now dead, and its living show had faded. He stared at Ivy. You'd have to put your faith in me. I know how much that costs. And you'd have to trust me with yours, Ivy said, looking him in the eye with her emerald eyes. My consciousness will be moving through yours to get to the bloom. I would see everything. A shadow crossed Naruto's face, bringing back thoughts of being alone, Kurama's anger, war, and grief. Then he smiled, but it was a sad smile. I've had worse people in my head. He looked at Harley and said, and if it saves my home, it's a fair trade. And you, Harley? Are you sure? It won't be like a fight. It will be sensation. All of it. All of Ivy's pain and all of the Bloom's craziness. It might be worse than a punch. Harley looked at Ivy and bit on her lip. She could see the anxiety behind the veneer of scientific determination. She saw the woman who talked to plants because humans had damaged her too often. She saw her best friend, the one she couldn't love, peering into an abyss and telling her to grip the rope. Look, Blondie, Harley replied, and her voice was remarkably steady. I've got Joker poison in my head. People have used my own thoughts against me. Feelings aren't going to scare me away. I'm going in if Red is. That's the agreement. Always has been. Naruto's eyes filled with deep respect. He nodded. Then we get ready. We have 3 days. Sakura, please make the protocols for the psychic interface. Use everything you know about the Yamanaka clan's mind walk technique and your own cellular chakra control. It needs to be as exact as brain surgery. Understood, Sakura answered, already putting together scrolls and regulations in her head. Pamela, Harley, Naruto said next. You need to take a break. And you need to make your tether stronger. Your link is what holds us together. Speak. Don't forget why you're doing this. Remember what's on the other side of the nightmare. He went with Sakura, feeling the weight of the difficult mission on his shoulders, but also a peculiar, hopeful determination. They weren't just fighting a monster. They were trying to help a sick kid. And he knew a thing or two about it. The silence came again, but it was softer this time. It was filled with the sound of leaves rustling and the hum of life in a faraway village. Ivy sat down on a wooden bench, tired. Harley sat next to her, not touching her, just being there with her. I'm scared, Harleen, Ivy said to the air, using Harley's real name, which was a sign of weakness. I know, Red, Harley answered in a hushed voice. Me too. But we're both afraid. That's not the same. If this doesn't work, if it takes over me, Harley responded, then it has to consume me too. And there was no way to argue with her. Pammy, you can't get rid of me so easily. We come as a set. In this planet or any other. Ivy finally stared at her, and tears came to her eyes again, but these weren't sad tears. They were tears of thanks that were so strong they scared me. She stretched out, and her hand, pale, green-traced, and able to kill, trembled as it touched Harley's, scarred, calloused, and able to break bones. Their fingers were linked, making a bridge between two ruined universes. Ivy said, You're my tether. Harley muttered back. And you're my gravity. Keeping me from floating away into nothing. The sun began to drop outside, casting orange and gold light on the archives. Sakura read old scrolls and new medical theories in a different section of the hamlet. Naruto stood on the Hokage's balcony and looked out at the bloom, which was far away and glowing in the distance. 3 days. 1 opportunity. A shield, a doctor, and an anchor. The thorn spire climbed taller in the altered woodland. Its pulsating light matched the beat of a warped, lonely heart that just wanted the anguish to stop. It dreamed of a quiet green place. And every second, it was learning how to make its goal come true. The botanical archives had gone from a sterile storage space to a charged, surgical theater. Sakura's neat writing and Naruto's more haphazard writing covered every flat surface with scrolls and medical diagrams. The air was filled with a low-level uneasiness, broken up by the strong smell of medical herbs that Sakura was grinding up to make a poultice to stimulate her brain. Ivy was exercising in the middle of the big room with her eyes closed. Not with plants, but with her own mind. She was learning how to create barriers inside herself, not out of bricks and vines, but out of her own will. Harley studied her closely, Learning a new skill, how to be still. Sakura said in a calm, professional voice. You can't force the connection. She grasped two little, polished stones that had a subtle, resonating resonance in them. It must be a confluence. You are the shield and the conduit, Naruto-sensei. Your chakra will make the route and the shield. Pamela, you will ride that path to the target like a leaf on a stream. Harley, you are the weight on that leaf that keeps it grounded in a certain emotional truth. Harley said. So I'm basically a really cute paperweight. But she didn't lose her focus. Naruto sat in front of Ivy with his legs crossed and his eyes closed. A soft, golden aura, not the violent flash of Ninetales' chakra, but the warm, deep well of his own huge power, started to come from him. It made the space feel stable, like sunlight on a mountain. Okay, Pamela, he responded in a deep voice. Opening the channel now. Don't push. Just listen for the current. Ivy took a big, trembling breath. Psychically reaching out to another person went against everything she did to protect herself. People had only ever handed her scalpels, cages, and suffering. But the vitality of this man didn't feel like a prison. It felt like a hand that was open. She sent a little green thread of thought out into the golden warmth. She gasped when they touched. It was huge. A deep and endless ocean of chakra. But she felt a lot more than that. Impressions, not memories, the scent of ramen broth, the rough grain of a wooden swing seat, the crushing loneliness of empty apartment walls, the fierce, burning love for a family, and the gritty determination to preserve a village. It was a tapestry of human experience, mostly good, with deep grief and unending hope woven in. The green's chilly, logical network and the bloom's screaming static were nothing like it. It was alive in a way that was both beautiful and scary. Steady, Naruto's voice said, not via her ears but directly into her head, calm and steady. Let it flow around you. Don't let the surroundings get to you. Ivy focused, picturing her mind as a single, strong seed pod trapped in the soft, powerful flow of his chakra. She was safe. Safe. It was a new and strange feeling. Now, Harley, Sakura stated in a quiet voice. Think about Pamela. Not how she looks. Not what she does. The emotion. The one that belongs to you. Harley shut her eyes and furrowed her brow as she focused. She thought about dumb things. The way Ivy would get a tiny smudge of soil on her nose when she was repotting. The sound of her irritated sigh when Harley brought home a starved, one-eyed cat. The feel of her hand cool and solid, drawing Harley back from a psychological cliff with a single touch. The quiet, powerful thrill of sitting in solitude together in the greenhouse, alive and together. A shimmering, silvery pink thread of energy, faint and flickering like a heat haze, gathered in the air between Harley and Ivy. It was chaotic, zigzagging, speckled with quick bursts of laughter and deep pools of grief, yet it was unbreakably strong. It connected itself to Ivy's green consciousness. The moment it occurred, Ivy sensed a new dimension solidify. Naruto's chakra was the boat and the water. Harley's link was the anchor and the compass. She was no longer adrift. Good, Sakura whispered, her Byakugo seal glowing as she monitored the tripartite energy matrix. The synchronization is holding at 78%. That's enough for a shallow probe. Naruto-sensei, slowly move the link towards the bloom's peripheral signature. Just the edge. We need a test run. Naruto nodded minutely. In the psychic space, the golden current altered direction, pulling Ivy's consciousness away from the warm, human hearth of his mind and out into the colder, wider universe. She sensed them moving across the hamlet, over the woodland, towards that pulsating, sickening beacon of wrongness. As they approached the psychic border of the Otsutsuki bloom, the temperature of the connection fell. The warm gold was attacked by psychological winds of jagged purple and desperate green. Ivy's seed pod self shuddered. Pain, incompatible, purify, silence, make whole. The thoughts weren't words. They were raw, shrieking impulses, the underlying code of the corrupted seed, transmitted on a loop. It was a headache-given voice, a cancer chanting its own mitosis. Ivy reflexively recoiled, but Naruto's chakra shield strengthened around her, a fortress against the psychic shrapnel. It's okay. His inner voice was a bulwark. You're safe. Observe. Don't engage. Ivy forced herself to listen, to examine past the ache. Beneath the hunger, she found the tangled roots of her own effort. She observed the sense-to-threat procedure, aggressively scouring the land, categorizing every fox, every bird, every distant chakra signature of a Konoha shinobi on patrol as a flashing red toxin in its vision. She noticed the deployed predator subroutine, directing the growth of thorn vines and pitcher plants towards these toxin concentrations. It was a hideous reflection of an immune system assaulting the body it was supposed to protect. It's so literal, Ivy thought, her mental voice tinted with terror. It has no concept of symbiosis, of balance. Only purity and contamination. A tendril of the bloom's awareness, sensing a familiar, pure, green signature, Ivy, contained in a burning toxin, Naruto's human chakra, struck out. It was a psychic probe, acute and invasive, aiming to pierce the golden shield to reach the core of Ivy within. Naruto didn't retaliate. He didn't push back. He did something considerably more difficult. He took the hit. The shield rippled, and Ivy felt a wave of his intense concentration, a dull ache of effort communicated through their link. He was taking the hit so she wouldn't have to. Now, Harley. Sakura's voice was a distant prompt in the actual world. On the mental level, the wild, silvery pink thread of Harley's relationship hummed. It didn't attack the probe. It did something stranger. It transmitted a pulse of pure, unfiltered emotion, a memory Harley was concentrated on. A memory of Ivy, exhausted and covered in grime after a fight with Batman, not tending to her plants, but carefully cleaning a cut on Harley's forehead, her touch infinitely gentle, her green eyes full of a worry that had nothing to do with ecosystems and everything to do with one stupid, reckless clown. The emotion, love, worry, tenderness, was a senseless data packet in the bloom's binary universe of pure/toxin. The aggressive probe faltered, bewildered. The emotion didn't compute. It wasn't a toxin to be expelled, nor was it a compatible plant-based signal. It was other. The bloom's concentration, for a fraction of a second, went from aggressive assimilation to confused analysis. The psychic strain lessened. Disengage, now! Sakura commanded. Naruto gently brought the golden current back, retracting their consciousness across the miles and into the safety of the archive. The connection split with a soft, mental pop. Ivy's eyes flew open. She was panting, soaked in a cold sweat, yet her eyes were burning with furious, intellectual brightness. It worked. The perplexity. Harley's signal, it established a buffer of incomprehension. It didn't know how to label it. Harley slumped, physically tired as if she'd run a marathon. Yeah, well, confusing people is my specialty. Glad it works on neurotic plants too. Naruto opened his eyes, a tired but triumphant smile on his face. You felt it, Sakura? The shield held. And then Harley did her thing, the animosity diffused. Sakura was sketching furiously on a scroll. Confirmed. The emotional resonance functions as a non-reactive buffer. It doesn't elicit the toxin response because it's not recognized as a chakra signature at all. It's a psychic anomaly. This provides us a critical window. She looked up, her expression grave. But that was the periphery. The core consciousness will be immensely more strong, more focused. And it will not be confused for long. It will strive to analyze, then integrate or kill the anomaly. Then we need to be faster. Ivy murmured, standing, her fatigue replaced with supercharged determination. We have the method. Shield to protect, anchor to confound and ground, and me too. She hesitated. To do the surgery. I noticed the protocols. They're like infected roots. I need to reach into the core, into the sense the threat root, and graft a new subroutine. One that defines health as a balanced system, not a pure one. One that respects animal chakra as a collaborator, not a pathogen. And how do we give it that definition? Naruto asked. Ivy looked at him, then at Sakura, then at Harley. We have to show it. We have to inject that definition into the graft. Not as an idea, but as an experience. We need to give it a memory that isn't its own. A memory of balance. Of symbiosis. Of protection. A strange stillness crept over the room. They were no longer planning a psychic intervention. They were intending to sacrifice a bit of their collective soul to a monster. We have 2 days left. Sakura murmured gently. We need to craft that memory. We need to practice the deep dive until it's instinct. And we need to prepare for the fact that the bloom will not receive this gift freely. It will fight the transplant with everything it has. The next 48 hours were a hard marathon of psychological drills and emotional excavation. They practiced until Naruto's chakra control was so fine he could hold the shield while mentally reciting the recipe for miso ramen. They rehearsed until Ivy could navigate the turbulent currents of his chakra while pinpointing specific, corrupted portions of the bloom's code from memory. They rehearsed until Harley could hold a single, intense emotional memory, the moment she resolved to leave the Joker for good, a choice made not for chaos, but for a chance at her own type of peace, stable and bright as a beacon for hours. They also built the graft. Together, in a profound, meditative state, they pooled not their chakra, but their core experiences. From Naruto, the moment Iruka sheltered him from Mizuki's onslaught, the first time an adult chose to protect the monster. From Sakura, the exact, life-saving coordination of her chakra with Ino's intellect during the Fourth War, a perfect synergy of distinct skills. From Ivy, a silent, intimate recollection of a bee pollinating a flower in her Gotham greenhouse, a perfect, old pact of mutual benefit. From Harley, a simple, wordless emotion of sitting shoulder to shoulder with Ivy on a rooftop, watching a Gotham sunset that was ugly and beautiful, knowing she was precisely where she was supposed to be. They linked these experiences into a single, profound psychic construct, a memory of symbiosis. It was a germ of a concept, comprising protection, cooperation, mutualism, and belonging. On the morning of the third day, when the sun rose in a sky that felt too quiet, they stood ready. They were dressed for practical fighting, but this battle would be waged on another dimension. The council had permitted them until noon. Shikamaru met them at the gates with a team of elite sensory and barrier ninja. "We'll establish a perimeter at the ridge. We'll hold back the bodily manifestations as long as we can. But if the center spire displays signs of a catastrophic surge, we have orders to trigger the suppression seal." His eyes found Naruto's. "Don't make me have to give that order." "We won't," Naruto responded, placing a hand on his friend's shoulder. "Trust us." The journey to the ridge was accomplished in silence. The bloom was visibly greater. The thorn tower now penetrated the low-hanging clouds, shining with its sickening heart light. The forest around it seethed, a restless, ravenous sea of purple and green. At the ridge, they took their positions. Naruto, Ivy, and Harley sat in a triangle, hands interlocked. Sakura stood behind them, her hands on Naruto's and Ivy's shoulders, her Byakugo seal blazing. She would be the lifeline monitor, the emergency medic of the soul. "Remember the protocol," Sakura added, her voice firm. "Naruto, you are the fortress. Harley, you are the lighthouse. Pamela, you are the gardener. Go save your child." They closed their eyes. The world fell away. The golden flood of Naruto's chakra erupted, surrounding them. The silvery pink thread of Harley's relationship shined like a guiding star. Together, they became a vessel of conscious intent, and shot like an arrow from the ridge, across the shrieking psychological gulf, directly into the heart of the storm. This time, there was no tentative approach. They plunged directly towards the core, the blazing, mental nucleus of the Otsutsuki bloom. The onslaught was immediate and violent. It was not a single probe, but a whirlwind of alien consciousness. Toxin. Assimilate. Purify. Silence. The ideas were physical strikes on Naruto's golden shield, which flashed brightly beneath the barrage. Ivy felt him grunt with the strain, a tremor spreading through their joined hands in the real world. Harley's anchor ignited in reaction, blasting pulse after pulse of chaotic, human emotion, defiance, loyalty, insane joy, into the storm. The bloom's attack stuttered around these packets, puzzled, buying microseconds. "Now, Ivy!" Naruto's mental voice was a roar over the psychic wind. Ivy, cradled within the shield, focused. She expanded her consciousness not as a weapon, but as a surgeon's needle, fine and accurate. She skirted the furious immunological response and found the root. The compromised sensed the threat protocol. It was a horrible, throbbing cluster of diseased light, feeding poison data to the entire system. She reached for it. And the bloom, experiencing the touch of its creator on its most holy, diseased truth, exploded. The psychic hurricane became a targeted drill, seeking to pierce the shield and eat Ivy. Naruto yelled out, his shield fading. Harley shouted, a primal sound in both realms, as the pressure threatened to tear her tether. "I can't hold," Naruto moaned. It was Harley who changed the tactic. She ceased broadcasting confusion. Instead, she concentrated every ounce of her will into a single, deafening telepathic shout. It wasn't an emotion. It was a name. "Pamela!" The yell, born of raw, desperate passion, was a shockwave of pure identity. It didn't confuse the bloom. It startled it. For one vital second, the unrelenting attack paused, as if the hideous mind had heard a sound from its own forgotten birth. In that second of astonished quiet, Ivy plunged her psychic self into the damaged root. Not to damage it. To graft. She pushed the memory of symbiosis, the woven gift of their collective heart, directly onto the festering wound of the sense the threat protocol. The bloom replied with a convulsive, psychological seizure. It was rejecting the graft. The golden shield cracked. Harley's tether frayed. Ivy saw the hideous consciousness turn inward, focusing its entire will on dissolving this foreign, pleasant, healing thought. It was a fight of paradigms now, down in the bloom's spirit. On one side, the perverted logic of purity through genocide. On the other, a delicate, offered memory, a bee and a flower, a teacher and a student, a healer and a fighter, two damaged women on a rooftop. In the actual world on the ridge, blood began to stream from Naruto's nose. Harley was shaking terribly. Ivy was deathly still, a statue of concentration. Sakura watched her monitors, her face pallid. The graft is holding, but it's not integrating. It's being assaulted by the host's immune reaction. It's failing. On the psychic world, Ivy saw their beautiful, contributed memories beginning to dissolve beneath the bombardment. They were going to lose. The bloom would learn from this attack, develop immune to their tactics, and eventually there would be no stopping it. Despair surged over her. And in that desperation, she did the only thing left. She ceased being the surgeon. She stopped being the scientist. She became the mother. She wrapped her own awareness, her own basic identity, not the metaphysical. Poison ivy. But Pamela Isley, the lonely girl who loved flowers, around the frail graft. She provided herself, her own source code, as the final layer of protection. She spoke not with rationality, but with a raw, telepathic whisper that echoed from her heart to the heart of the creature she had made. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I made you this way. You were supposed to be gorgeous. You were supposed to help. Please, just rest. Let me solve this. Let me help you sleep. It was surrender. It was love. It was an apology to a nightmare. And in the center of the Otsutsuki bloom, something moved. The continuous attack on the graft paused.